you all to the third session that we're hosting. This has been a three-part webinar series. The first one we focused on club admin features. Second one we focused on club member benefits. And this one we're going to be focused on route planning. We are going to cover it from the club accounts perspective, but also cover it from an individual user's perspective as well. So first thing I'd like to do is just start off with the presentation overview. First, let me introduce you to, we'll introduce Ride with GPS and then also us. My name is William Lauberens, and also on the call is Alex Gay. If any of you have written into support with a club related question in the past or any issues related to the club account, joining the club, accessing club member benefits, it's a pretty good chance you spoke to either one of us. We handle most of the support related to that account and help any of the members get the most out of the account. Also in this presentation, we're going to be covering the route planner, just basic overview stuff. And the bulk of the presentation is going to be devoted to doing a live demo. So we're going to cover things like basic route planning, editing existing route, how you turn a ride into a route, and how you import a GPS file like a GPX or a TCX file or a FIT file from your Garmin and bring that into the route planner and turn that into a route for others. And then at the end, we'll also go through kind of an FAQ in terms of things we often see for folks. And we're also going to do Q&A. So I see that there's already a lot of questions that people are asking. Thank you. We appreciate that. I will say that last presentation, we had close to 90 questions total. And we got to about half of those. If we don't get to your question, it's not that it's not important to us. It's just that just with the amount of time that we have and trying to cater to everyone's needs with the presentation, we might not be able to cover all of them. So if we don't get to your question, feel free to shoot us an email at info@ridewithgps.com. We do 7-day support. We're always happy to help. Some of your questions might actually be better there too, because they might be detailed and we'll be able to send you a video or a screenshot sequence or something like that to help walk you through whatever it is you're looking to get an answer for. Okay, who is Ride with GPS? We build software for cyclists because we are cyclists. We build the tools that we're looking for when we're trying to create routes or we're trying to customize them and make little tweaks and go this way instead of that way. These are the things that we want to do as cyclists, and we want to record it and share it with other people. And those are the tools we bring into the software and into the route planner. We're recognized for our industry-leading route planner and also turn-by-turn voice navigation of the app, and we'll cover both those things. And then a little bit of stats on the numbers and the history. The company was founded in 2007 by Zach and Cullen. They're still very active in the company. If any of you have been with Ride with GPS for a number of years, you might have even spoken to them through the support system. They are still very hands-on, and we still work with them day-to-day basis, and they still talk to a number of our customers and members. We have grown a lot since the company launched in 2007, currently 18 full-time staff members. We are based in Portland, Oregon, and although we're based here and a lot of our users are in the US, we're global. We have several million users all over the world. And we work with hundreds of different cycling clubs. The other thing I always like to point out is that Ride with GPS has no outside investors. So you don't see ads on our site. We don't market to you. If you record your rides on our site, we don't sell that data to anyone else. We don't sell your email to anyone else. So you're not going to get any like marketing stuff through us. We're 100% member supported. We always have been and we always will be. So I always like to mention that because I know a lot of our customers and members appreciate that. Okay, so the route planner overview. I'm going to go through how you build and customize your ideal cycling route, go through the options that allow you to plan anywhere in the world, and then also talk about how these routes sync to your account once you save them, both online and in the mobile app. So we'll jump over to the live demo now. Okay, so like I mentioned, I'm going to cover this first as if I was a route manager for the cycling club. If I was planning a route for my personal account, I would just sign into Ride with GPS. This is my personal account we're looking at right here. And I would click Route Planner, and that will bring me to the Route Planner where I can plan a route. And when I save it, it will save to my personal account. If I want to plan a route for the cycling club, the easiest way to do that, if I'm a route manager, if I have permission to do that through the club, is click on the club icon on the left-hand side here. And I have a bunch of different clubs, but most likely you'll just have the one. We'll click on this one, and I'm going to click Sign into Club. And now when I go up to Route Planner, that launches the Route Planner, and it launches to our default location that the club is set to, which is Portland, Oregon. But maybe I want to start my route from somewhere else. So you can enter a location here. You can put in a specific business or something like that, or you can put in a specific address. So I'm actually going to start this one up where I'm at in Camas, Washington. Start route here. And the first thing I'm going to cover is just clicking along the route. So I have my start already identified. I'm going to make sure that Add to Route is clicked. Under routing options here, I'll cover these in more detail, but because I'm creating a cycling route, I want to make sure that's clicked. And I'm just going to click along the route to create my route where I want to go. So one thing I'd like to call out as I'm doing this, you'll see on the left-hand side here, these cues are being generated. And these cues are what the app is going to read to give riders turn-by-turn voice navigation. Also, if you end up exporting this route as a TCX file or a FIT file and loading it to your Garmin, it's what those devices are going to use to tell you what turns are coming up. So if I go up here to settings, you can choose to have the icons displayed, these cue icons. So you'll see everywhere that those cues are being generated as I'm planning along. And that's one of the big differences between a ride and a route on our site. A ride is not going to have any cues associated with it. It's not going to tell people to turn left or turn right. But when you're planning a route in our system, or if you turn a ride into a route and trace it, which Alex is going to cover, we'll generate those cues as you go. And these cues are what are displayed, like I said, in the app. They're prompted on GPS units, or they'll be what's displayed on PDF maps if you print those. So the other thing that I want to call out here is, since we're talking about cues, is customizing these. So let's say I like the route, the cues that are being generated as I'm going along here, but I happen to know there's a dangerous railroad track crossing here or something along those lines. Maybe it's a gravel road section or just bad pavement, and I want to call that out to my riders. One thing I can do is click this custom cue option here and choose where on the route I want to put that, and click right there, and then say what it is I wanted to call out. So if it was, left turn, right turn, something like that. But in our case, like I mentioned, I want to call out dangerous gravel or loose gravel. Use caution. Anything that's in this note section that you type will be read to the riders. So we've seen all sorts of things. Sometimes it's letting people know about an optional detour that they can do. Sometimes it's letting people know about the start of a segment or the start of a hill climb and how long that's going to be. Sometimes it's things like loose gravel or dangerous railroad crossing or something like that. But whatever you put in the notes section, that will be read to riders. It will be in the PDF maps and Cuesheets, and it will be announced on Garmin units and Wahoo units as well. So I'm going to click Save there. And then I'm going to go back to Add to Road and continue planning this route. So let's say I get to here and I want to see where other cyclists are riding. one of the things I'm going to click is this heat map option up here. And what this is going to do is it's going to give me lines of the most popular rides that people do on our site. So the darker the red, the more frequently people ride that route. So you can see not a lot of people go on this 38, but some people do. So you know that it is something that cyclists do, but in general, most cyclists prefer to stay on this road. And the darker the red, the more people are going to be riding on that area. So I'm just going to go up here and keep clicking along and get to this point here. And let's say I get down to here and I think, well, this route's getting a little bit long. Maybe I want to look for a business or a place that we can stop and use restrooms. The RWGPS map style, this map style up here, is really good to show all the different route options. But one thing that is really helpful is using this map layer, which is Google Maps, and that's going to give you business information. So if I go down here to Washougal and I zoom in, it's going to list all the different businesses that are there. So if I'm looking for a specific gas station stop or restroom stop or something like that, I'll easily be able to find it, which I might not have been able to in the RWGPS option. The other thing that it's useful for is switching to different styles to look at topography, for example. So terrain, satellite, if I want to look at where I'm riding and see, what type of area I'm going to be riding in. Maybe I want to use Streetview for this section. So the little icon here, you just drag and drop that on the roads. So if I want to make sure that this is a good road to ride on, you can drag and drop. And then when you're done looking at that, you would just click back there. And now I'm back in the route planner. The other thing that I want to mention when you're switching map styles, another reason why you might want to do it. So this is a trail network by my house, and they add to this all the time. And one thing that you'll notice is if you're in Google Maps, which is this option here, a lot of these trails don't exist. They're just not in the mapping system. Google hasn't added them in. But if you switch to something like RWGPS, all those trails are present. Same thing with OSM. Our route tiles, this RWGPS is based on OSM. So if it's in one, it will be in ours as well. There's other benefits as well. To give you an example, if you ever get to a road and Google Maps, if you're in this option, doesn't let you plan on that road, but you know that you can get through it. It could be that the road is closed during the time frame that you're trying to plan. So a famous example here is a route, a road called Mackenzie Pass over in Bend. And for a certain portion of the year, it's only cycling traffic and there's big snowbanks on the side and it's super cool. It's a very iconic ride here. But let's say I was planning to do that in May when they open it up for riders, but I was planning the route in June. If I was set to Google Maps and I was trying to plan that route in January, if I was planning the route in January, I wouldn't be able to plan through that. Google Maps would give me an announcement that the road is closed and it won't let me plan on it. If you switch to RWGPS, you will be able to plan through there. So the idea is we just want to make sure you have all the options you need to customize routes as you need to. Speaking of the customization options, whatever your routing preference is set to is going to dictate what roads the route planner takes. So I'm set to cycling, so it's going to prefer routes that are good for cycling. If there was a trail, a site that was listed for cycling next to this Washougal River Road, it would put you on that road or that trail because of the routing preference that you have on. Hiking or walking, it will allow you to go on trails or hiking paths that are only permitted to be done by foot. So cyclists might not be allowed on there. And then driving is an option for, let's say there was a trail next to this road and you don't want to hop on there because it gets a lot of pedestrian traffic and it's just not ideal for cycling. The route planner might not know that, but you do. So if you chose driving, the route planner is not going to push you over to that all the time. So that's a little trick that we often are able to tell people that write in with questions such as that. So I'm going to keep clicking along here, make sure that I have this add to road option on. Get down to here. One thing I always like to cover with people is, let's say I make a mistake. I click up there when I meant to click here, and now I have this error in here. How do I undo that and redo that? There's a couple ways. The first one is up here at the top. You have these undo, redo buttons, and I can undo as many steps as I'd like. So maybe I'm just trying to see what happens if I go up this road to the elevation profile. Does it add more? Does it drop down? Is it completely flat? You can test that out and then undo any of that stuff to go back to where you were before you started going down that road. I'm going to redo that and show you another option, which is right click, and then the options pop up here. So I can undo that section. I'm going to continue planning along here. And I'm going to go up this Crown Road. Take a little bit different way back to the house, and there we go. I have my route. So let's say I like this route, but now I need to put in a little bit of customization in here. Right now I have all the cues, which are kind of my visual representation, but I also need to add in, or sorry, my cues, which is my audio representation, but I also need to add in visual representation for different things, such as the top of the climb, or an optional restroom stop, or anything along the way. This option right here, drop POI, if you select that and then click anywhere on the map, you can add a POI in there. So let's say I wanted to add in coffee shop. And I can put a URL in there if I wanted to put in a specific business, or put a description, put in photos, and all of that will be accessible in the app. The other thing is, once you add the POI, you can drag and drop it to the exact location. So maybe this isn't directly on the route. It's just off to the side here. So I can put it right there. But now I want to put in a custom cue to let riders know that that option exists. So now I'd click here and say it's a left turn to get to that. And I'd say something like optional coffee stop on, excuse me, on left. And when the riders approach that intersection, that cue, that will be read to them in the app. The other thing I always like to point out is we announce cues based off of the speed that someone's going. So if you're going uphill and you're going slower, we're going to read the cue closer to the intersection. If you're going downhill and you're going a lot faster, we're going to read the cue further back, so you have more time to process it, more time to respond. So always, if you're using custom cues, always put the cues right at the intersection, and the app will handle the rest. So that's custom cues and POIs. I thought that would be helpful to cover. The other thing I want to do, since I am making this route for other people, is review this route. So right down here at the bottom, there's an option to review cues. And if I click that, it brings up this new interface for me. And what it's going to do is it's going to walk through every single cue, and I can go through and I can confirm this. So each one I'm confirming. Let's say I get to this one, for example, and it says turn left onto Southeast 7th Street, but I know that that doesn't really need to happen. It's very intuitive exactly what you do in this case as a rider. I can delete this out, or I can make any edits I want to it and confirm. And then it will, same thing with this one, this continue option in here. Delete that out, confirm, because it's just a very intuitive intersection that you go through. You flow right through it. So I don't need to add that in. So you can delete those out, and then you'll see that on the left here. A little note on the cues that are created when you're planning. anytime the road changes names, so if it's from Highway 10 to Main Street back to Highway 10, the route planner is going to say continue straight on Main Street, continue straight on Highway 10 as those road names change. So as a rider, nothing may be changed for you. You're riding on the same road, and you can delete those out, but that would be an instance where this queue review tool could really help. Can also help you identify any issues. You know, if you were planning and you realized that you made a mistake, you went on the wrong road, it's nice to be zoomed in on this level and have this walkthrough. And let's say I'm done with this. I'm going to close this here. Next thing I'm going to do is click save. And I'm going to give this a name. And great road ride. Put in a description as well. I'm going to switch this. This is a visibility level because I'm signed into the club. My options are public, route manager only, which means only members that are route managers can see it, and members only, which means only people that are members of the club can see it. I'm going to save this one as public, and I'm not going to put in any events or anything, and I'll click save. So now this route is part of the club account that I belong to. And then the next thing that we're going to cover, and I'm going to hand over controls to Alex, is taking this route and editing it. So he's going to edit in his own personal account, and maybe I created this from my house, but he's going to change the start location, edit from a different place, or maybe make the route smaller or longer. I'm going to hand things over to him, and he'll take over that. All right, Alex, you have host control.
All right, thanks, Will. Hi, everyone, and thanks again for being here tonight. Appreciate it. So let me start off. So Will just planned a route for our club, and I'm gonna just quickly show you how you can access it on our app. So that's what you see here on the right side. You'll see on your homepage, if you're a club member, you can tap the banner of your club to view the club's homepage, or you can tap more, tap club, and then view the route. So here at the top, it says demo webinar, and that's the route Will just made. So I can tap that. And if I wanted to save this for offline use, I'd be able to tap download. You see it's downloading. If I tap it again, it'll take you to the offline routes, and you'll see its progress bar as it's saved for offline use. When it's offline, I can put my phone in airplane mode, which is still going to allow me to use navigation, but I'll use less battery, and I'll be able to navigate this and view the map and see everything that I need to while I'm navigating. So when I'm ready to ride, I can tap navigate. If I wanted to explore more about this route, I can see its stats. I can swipe to the left and see its elevation profile and its cue sheet. Great. All right, so now let's look at the website. So, like Will mentioned, I'm going to take that route for my own personal use. So I'll be able to get to that route from my homepage. You'll see I'm a club member of that account, so I can click our club icon here and view our routes list. And here's demo webinar. So in my personal account, I'm able to edit this for my own use. And I'm gonna open it in the route planner and change some things. So I'll start off by clicking more and open in route planner. So now I see the route just as Will planned it, but there's a few things that I want to change to make it better for me. So one of those things is I'm going to reverse its direction. I'm going to change its starting point and change part of the route. So on the right side of the screen, you'll see this option here to reverse it. And here I can confirm and just take note of what it says here. It's going to plan it from scratch. So Will had added a custom queue. That queue is going to be removed, that custom queue from the coffee stop. And also note that it might not be an exact mirror of the original route. So depending on the routing preferences of the route planner, it might take a different road. It might change a road because you had gone down a one-way street. So just be aware of that when you do use the reverse route function. So now it's reversed. Previously it went clockwise and now it goes counterclockwise. The next thing I want to do is change the start. So I wanted to start over here rather than over here. So what I'm going to do first is take out this part because I know I don't need to go down that way. I can do that by clicking and dragging on the route line. So I'm going to select that. That first part is selected. I'm going to click delete selection here. So now you see the start moved here. I want to do the same thing at the end of the route. So I'll click and drag on the elevation profile and then delete selection. Okay, so now it's a loop, still a loop, but not starting where I want to start. So if I want to move the start from here, here, I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to first click split route, and then I'm going to click on the route line or on the elevation profile to where I want my new route to start. So let's say right here. So now it's split. And you'll see there's this route in red and this in gray. And you'll see these two different routes on the left column. So I'll select the route where I see the green start flag. So now this route is selected. I see a start icon there. I'm going to come up to where it previously started after I cut out the beginning and end from Will's original route. I'm going to click this green dot to join these two pieces together. So once I click it, like that, now it's one complete route. So now the route starts here. But I know that I don't want to ride this far, almost 20 miles. So I'm going to cut out the middle section of this route. So like what I did to cut out the original beginning and end of this route, I can select the length of the route on the elevation profile, like here. And then on the right, again, click delete selection. And now there's the first and second part of the route. So I can make sure I have add to route selected, click on the road I want to follow, and when I'm ready to join them, click that green dot to join them into two pieces. And then I'm going to move this little spur over here. So now it makes that left turn I want. And now I have this shorter route with that northern section removed. It starts over here rather than over here. And it goes counterclockwise rather than clockwise. So now that I'm ready to save it and ride, I can click save here on the right column, excuse me, on the left column at the bottom. Enter a name. And save it and view. All right. So another thing that the route planner does is you can take a previous ride, whether it was recorded on our app or uploaded from a file from your bike computer or from a route that you planned on a different website. You can add it to our route planner and add a cue sheet to it and make any other changes you'd like. So my favorite way to do that is here from the route planner. I can click import existing, and I can, if I have a file, say from my Garmin, I can click upload file and choose a file that's saved to my computer, like this one, and then click add to planner. So now I see the line, the route line, but you'll notice on the left column that there's no cue sheet. So if I were to navigate this, I wouldn't have any turn-by-turn voice navigation coming from the app. If I added this to my bike computer, I wouldn't have any cues appearing on the screen. I would just see the route line. So you want to make sure to add a cue sheet. So how you can do that is here from the right column, you can click trace. There's two options, auto trace and manual trace. Auto trace will trace the route on its own. You don't really need to do anything. Manual trace will let you trace it by hand, but I prefer auto trace. It's nice and quick. So I'll click auto trace. Takes just a moment for it to trace a route. So now you'll see on the left that it has a cue sheet. So I'm able to review it. It might not follow the route just exactly as you plan it. You see here it jogs this way instead of here, but I can click and drag the route line to make it follow the original. If I know I don't need this spur coming out this way, I can again click and drag it, or I could use that delete selection option that I showed you previously. All right, so there is my route I uploaded from a file that has a cue sheet. I can also take a ride from my ride list. So again, I can come up here to import existing, and then I'll see all these options. So here, let's take this one and add it to the planner. All right, so now that's added. You'll see it in red. It's kind of getting cluttered with these other gray lines. So I can take those out. I'll click the three dots here, remove route, click the three dots, remove route. So now I'm just working with this one here. Good. And again, I'd be able to click trace and auto trace. Cool. So now I have my traced version of this route. If I know I want to have maybe two different options for this, I could click duplicate. And now I have the second route, and I could edit it to go maybe extend up into this way and come back down and join with the rest of the route. So now I have two similar routes, but one's a little bit longer and has a little extra climb to it. So a great feature of the route planner is being able to edit multiple routes at the same time just by toggling between each one. Just note that you would need to save each one individually. So I'll do that here. So I'll come down here and click save. I'll click again, save. But now I want to go back and save the other one I was planning. So I'll need to click the X here in the upper right of this box. Select that. Click save. I'm going to save this as a new route rather than overriding my first route, I'll call it. Second route. And then we'll view it. And there it is. There's the second route I planned. You can also add a file to your account from the upload page. So that's over here, jump to, upload, and you can either click and drag your file onto this page and it will be added to your account, or you can click select files, and again, it will be added to your account. So now let's go back to the app and see what that looks like. All right, so here's the app on the right again. I'm just gonna see that it's refreshed. At the top, you'll see second route, first route, my favorite. I can tap library, tap routes. And here at the top are those three routes that I just planned. They're added to my account. They sync from your computer to the phone app automatically. No need to manually send them in any way. If they're planned on your personal account, they'll be added to your app automatically. The same goes with routes in the club account. Club accounts that you see on the website are also going to be available on the app. So there it is. If I was a Wahoo user, these routes would be synced automatically. If it was a club route and I was a Wahoo user, I would need to pin that route. And same case for Garmin users who are using the Garmin sync option. You would want to also pin the route to add either one from your club or your personal account. So here, if I wanted to add my club route to my Wahoo, I'd come up here and tap the three dots in the upper right. Ooh, it's already pinned. But I would see here the option to pin. I would pin it. And then the next time I sync my Wahoo, this route would be available. Same next time I sync my Garmin, and I've set up Garmin Courses Sync, which is a wireless syncing option, then this route would also be available there to navigate. But we've got the app here where you're able to get that voice navigation, view the map anywhere you want, and navigate it. So that covers my section. Will, any questions that
Absolutely. And it actually, a lot of the questions that are coming in are ones that we identified for the FAQ we were going to do anyways. Mm-hmm. So Alex, if you could jump over to the route planner and auto trace another ride. One of the questions we had was, how do you modify that route? Like, let's say it auto traces and it doesn't do exactly what you want it to do in a specific point. How do you make a correction there? This is kind of similar to what you covered when you deleted a section, rerouted, but I just want to cover this again, maybe with control points, or just call this out specifically because we got probably 3 questions related to this.
Sure. So here's the route I had traced earlier, and we can use auto trace on it again. And so in this case, it follows it pretty close, but I had noted this section that where it doesn't. And here I had just clicked and dragged it. But maybe there was a larger section of that route that I didn't follow. So again, what you could do is, let's say, for example, the route originally went this way, but it traced going this way. So how I can adjust that is to here, click and drag the route line and use delete selection. And then extend the route by clicking on the roads I want to follow. And then click the green dot to join them. So that's one way with using delete selection. Now, you can also click and drag the route line itself rather than deleting the selection. So to make a larger, so I can click and drag the route line here, but it's only going to impact the length of route between these two control points. So the longer the length of distance between two control points, the further that more of that route could be impacted. So I'll click remove control point on the right column. And I know I want to edit this length of the route. So I'm going to remove that control point and this. And then I'll add one here just to lock it in so that this length of route at the bottom isn't impacted. So now let me click and drag the route line and see it snap to these roads. Or maybe I wanted for it to meander a little bit like this. Like that. So you can click and drag the route line and see it snap to these roads that you'd prefer it to follow.
Yeah, I think the real important thing there to remember is to set the control points before and after the sections you want to drag, because otherwise the whole entire route could change. So that's always something that I think people miss and can get frustrated by. But if you just use those control points, you'll only be dragging and dropping the section between those two control points.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point about routes or maybe a ride you've uploaded into the route planner that doesn't have any control points. Mm-hmm. And so let me add the file again here. So it's that same route again, but you'll notice it doesn't have a cue sheet, and there's effectively only two control points, one being the very end of the route here, and the other being the beginning. You don't see a control point at the beginning, but the way the route planner works is that it behaves as a control point. So I want to move the start of this route. I want to move it up here, but look what happens. The whole route goes away because there's only these two control points at the beginning and the end. So there's no real structure of this route for it to hold its shape when I click and drag the route line. So how I can prevent that from happening is I could trace it, and then it would add a bunch of control points in a cue sheet, and that's great, but maybe I just wanted to just purely move the start point by clicking and dragging. So I added a control point there. I'll show you. Oops. So I added a control point here, and then I can click and drag the route line, and you'll see only the route between the start and this control point is impacted rather than the rest of this route.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that, Alex. I got another series of questions related to gravel and off-road routes versus road routes. People are trying to identify one over the other. So, one thing I would say is bear with us. We got some really cool stuff coming up. It's going to be something that we're going to add hopefully in this next year called surface type. And it's going to identify what type of road you're riding on, and it will also identify the percentages of your route. So if you have 10% paved and 90% gravel, it will identify things like that, and that will be accessible for other people as well. Currently, the best way to do this is to use satellite. So Alex, if you could switch over, thank you. Use satellite and then zoom in. You'll be able to, on the line, on the track line or in a new area, so perfect what Alex is doing here. So that's one thing. Another thing is if you drag and drop the street view, there's a pretty good chance in most cases, the paved roads, and almost, I would say it's 95% accurate, the paved roads are going to have street view and the unpaved roads are not. So if there's no street view, this isn't 100% all across the globe, but there's no street view, there's pretty good chance that it's going to be unpaved, at least in North America. And then let's see, so we went through that. Those are the two best options right now in terms of trying to figure that stuff out for gravel or unpaved. In terms of how you plan on those roads, I think another really important thing to mention. So Alex, can you switch over to Google Maps real quick? So I would imagine, just this is taking a guess, but I would imagine if you go over to Forest Park, there's a number of roads and trails in there that aren't on this map. And the same thing will be the case if you are in a gravel area. Maybe you're trying to do logging roads. We're over here in the Pacific Northwest, so there's quite a few. If you switch over to RWGPS or OSM, you'll have a lot more of those logging roads displayed, or any of the connector trails or anything like that, than you would if you were in Google Maps, which is a lot better for the business content and POIs and things like that, but just isn't quite as accurate in terms of decommissioned roads and stuff like that a lot of people search for. In terms of planning on those with our site, you can plan on them. It's pretty rare that those roads don't exist in the OSM or RWGPS layer. If they don't exist, there's always the option to draw roads. I use that tool sparingly because if you draw roads, if you draw lines as your track to follow, you're not going to be creating a queue as you do it. So sometimes I switch between the two. Maybe it's just I use draw roads for a little connector that's not on the map, and then I switch back. So that could be an option. So I hope that answers the gravel question. That gives you something to look forward to when we release surface types later next year. Another question that we got was related to elevation data, and we get this one a lot. So our site and basically every other route planner site out there, what we're sourcing from is data that isn't 100% accurate, and then coming up with algorithms to smooth that data out. So, and it's the other thing to mention is that we're recording the land values. So for example, Alex, if you go over to one of the bridges and maybe you just plot across the Fremont Bridge there, or the St. John's Bridge, or either one of those along there. And then on the elevation profile, you can see that that bridge is actually quite a bit higher. Maybe switch over to satellite, you'll be able to see this. That bridge is quite a bit higher. What's going to be reported on the elevation profile is actually the lake. It's going to be the land value, or the river is going to be the land values and not the bridge values. We have tools, it's called flatten elevation, which can help solve that. But I just want to point out that our data comes from land values. So if you go through a tunnel and the tunnel goes through a big mountain peak or something like that, this is specifically in places like Japan or in Spain or something like that, we get a lot of that. We're going to get those mountain peak land values and not the tunnel value, but we have tools to smooth that out. So that's one thing on elevation. The other thing I'll say is that the data points that we have are not all over the place, and they could be spread out a little bit. So we might have a data point, one point on the map, and then we have another one, and we're making calculations based off of those when we're planning the route and fetching elevation for that. So it might vary from what the actual route goes on, only because that data doesn't exist. So to give you an idea of like what the most accurate elevation reading is going to be, it's generally going to be a barometric pressure sensor, so a GPS unit, but even those are going to vary. So if you've ever ridden next to a clubmate or next to your rider buddy with the same exact Garmin, you're both using the Garmin 1000, for example, it's on your handlebars, it's not in a jersey pocket, you get done with your ride, you both did the same route, there's a pretty good chance the elevation data is going to differ, and it could be a couple hundred feet between the two of them, even though you did the exact same one, because the barometric pressure sensor within that device is going to vary a little bit. But in general, that's going to be your most accurate reading so long as the device is reading accurately. And then second would be our site, I think, in terms of the ability to where we're fetching elevation from and how accurate and how many data sources we have. But that's going to vary, and it will also vary slightly between what map layer you use, because the data points for OSM and Google Maps is going to vary actually slightly. So a complicated question. I hope that answered it. We definitely do everything we can to make elevation as accurate as possible. We strive to be within 8% or so, and I know that's a lot. I mean, if you have a 3,000-foot climbing day, that's a huge difference in between what your total value is and what you end up with. But it's essentially we record, we get the most accurate data that we possibly can for that. And then we had another question, and I think Alex has his phone up. I wanted to mention finding a route in the app. So we covered this a little bit in the last presentation, just routes in the app, but let's say you wanted to just find a route that was in your area or search for a route. I just wanted to maybe point out the find page. Yep, sorry, go ahead.
I can talk over this. So yeah, you'll find the find page here at the bottom of the app, and tap find. And this is going to search for all public routes that have been created on our site by all of our users. So you can either type in a start location, or you can tap the crosshairs here and it'll enter that for you. You can search within a certain range. Let's make it a little closer. And maybe I had a route distance in mind, let's say between 10 and 20 miles. And then here, this other option, only routes with cue sheets. That means it's going to give you things that you can navigate with turn-by-turn voice navigation, rather than things like rides, which aren't going to have a cue sheet and aren't going to be able to give you that voice navigation. So that's toggled on by default, which is great. And maybe there's a keyword. This will be something that's included in the title or the description of this route. So let's say hilly. Oops. Hilly. And then I can tap search. Look, here's one. And I can download this, and I can navigate this and follow it all from my phone.
Excellent, thank you. And then the other thing I wanted to cover real quick is printing a route. So we talked a lot about getting the route on your phone and all this stuff. We covered this in the last presentation, but we got, I would say, maybe 3 or 4 questions related to, all right, you've created the route. How do I get this route printed and into something that I can stick in a jersey pocket? We don't need to go over all the details in there, but just the basic idea of kind of how you would do that from a planned route.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here's one of the routes that I planned. And this would be the same if it was from your personal account or from your club account. You can come up to More and Print Map and Cue PDF. And then I'll be able to choose certain features that I want included in this PDF. The important stuff is down here, Cuesheet options. So you can toggle these off and you can arrange them so they're in the order you like. Change things like the rows and columns. If you like it 2 by 2, this is great for if you like to fold it into smaller squares and stick it in your pocket or onto your bike bag on your handlebars. And then click Submit down here at the bottom. And there it is. There's the map with the elevation profile and the cue sheet. And then I can print this from my computer and carry it with me on the ride.
And I'm answering just a couple of questions here that we glossed over. While Alex has been going through this, I've been trying to tackle these questions. We've gotten a couple people ask what OSM stands for. As I type my response, I'll just say it stands for OpenStreetMaps. And this is, it's kind of like a Wikipedia where it's an open source data source. People can go in and edit them themselves and make corrections. But generally, if there's a change that's done that's related to the municipality or the city, and then they update it. So whether it's like a new bike path going in or a new trail network or something like that. But that's where we source our data from in that for the OpenStreetMap layer, and then also the RWGPS tiles.
Yeah, and I'll also mention, so from the maps from RWGPS and down are using that information, the OpenStreetMaps information, and then the top 4, hybrid, satellite, terrain, and map, all that comes from Google.
Okay, and the other thing that I wanted to mention, reoccurring question, is related to viewing these presentations after today. So we're recording this session. I'll get it edited and then uploaded tomorrow morning after it saves and does everything it needs to do. And we're saving them all to a playlist, and we'll be sending out an email for everyone. If you want it, the email might go out Friday afternoon or maybe Monday morning. If you want access before then, if you just shoot us an email at info@ridewithgps.com, I'll shoot you a link to the playlist that will have that in there. So you can access that at any point. I think maybe we have time for one other question from Deborah here. Can you take a personal route and copy it to a club route? Absolutely. We covered this a little bit in the last presentation as a full overview, but we get this question enough that I'd love to go through it one more time. I just want to say that in order to do this, you do have to be a route manager for your cycling club. And Alex is going to do that now. If you just
So my other account, I'm not a route manager, but in this account I am. So if I wanted to take a route I planned in my personal account and move it to the club, I can come check out some of my routes. Here, I'll click this one. And I want to move it to the club account. So I can click More, Copy to my routes. And then here under account, you'll see the club account you're a route manager for. So I'm here, got a couple different ones, but I'll choose this. And so when I click copy, it's going to duplicate this. So it'll leave the original in my personal account and create a copy into the club account. And you can do this with a route from any account. It doesn't need to be from your personal account. It can be from a route that you found on our website from a different user. It can be from a friend. You can also copy rides from your personal account to your club account, and then you could trace them so that they'd have a cue sheet for navigation. So that would be the same steps of when you're viewing the ride. If this were a ride, for example, you click more, copy to my routes, and then choose the club you want to add it to. And then you would be able to log into your club account as a route manager and edit that route for your members to use.
Excellent. And I think that about does it for us. We wanted to keep this presentation narrowed down to an hour just to make it digestible for everyone viewing it now and then later. So if you do have any questions, there's a number of questions we didn't get to. We got to, let's see, about 40 of them. Looks like there's still about 30 that are open. So if we didn't get to your question, feel free to shoot us an email at info@ridewithgps.com. We do 7-day support. Alex, myself, or anyone else on the support team will be happy to help. And we just want to thank you all for sitting in the presentation and following along with us. And again, we'll make these available to everyone. If you want access before that email goes out to all club members, shoot us an email at info@ridewithgps.com, and we'll send that to you as soon as we can. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone.